It is a Danji design, and I feel like this one's wider than the one that I had done in the video. I could be wrong, but we have 4 stitches in between, so that's a godsend. Some of them I've seen have 2, and I don't know if they changed that up because people were not happy about that. But yeah, it's a challenge that is actually kind of terrifying at times when you have that many stitches that close together. So I did do a preemptive cord this time. And let's just get right into it. So since my iron is good and hot, I'm going to do the fusible interfacing first. Now I got to change my camera view again. Hold on. I don't think you want to just watch my face as I do all of this stuff. There we go. So we have this lovely, it's a little more tealy green than what's in the piece, but it's hard to find nice green velvet. It is. I got some and it's really kind of yellowy, and it's not like a nice, pretty spring green. It's odd. Kind of reminds me of a pool table. Actually, this reminds me of a pool table too, but all right. So we're going to go ahead, and the fusible interfacing does not like steam, does not really like to be hot. I do have it on 6 cotton. All right. And now we're just going to smooth it with our hands, because as it cools, sometimes it likes to pop up and do little stupid things like that. And if for some reason you find an air pocket in there when you curve it, sometimes you can see it. Just go back over it with the iron and smooth it with your hands as it cools, and you'll be good. Okay, here we go. We'll set this to the side. I'm going to lay it flat. I just don't have a lot of surface area over here. And we are going to just dive right in and do our long cuts. The nice thing, about 1/2 inch all the way around, I'm probably going a little tight in on this, is we have a lot of straight lines on this. And we are going to talk about how to make it a flat and how to make it puffed. Ultimately, this request was for a puffed. So you're going to get to see how to do the 3-dimensional puffing of this. The flat is much easier because you don't have to make the foam core or mat board, whichever you decide. You don't have to make it so much smaller. Okay. So, but in order to have the puff, okay, here we go. We're going right down the middle of the 2, right to the end, right, and cut that last one in. Okay. I don't bother to dart those. We don't really care. I don't know why my nipping scissors were all the way on the other table, but we do need to nip right there because we're going to want to pull that piece down. Maybe it was the same. I don't know. Now I am going to do it the same way, where we're going to do the front half of it, putting it on the foam core, putting the fluff on it, putting the foam core on in it, wrapping it around. And then we're going to hand sew the cording around to about here, because you can get better angles sewing the cording on prior. And then the rest of it we'll do with the backing on, including the backing. Why am I doing this? So used to doing that. It's a straight run. We don't need to do the darts on that side. I just get so used to doing it, I think. So I went home and I saw my dog and he was thrilled. And I had some food, and when I went to leave, he was so mad at me, like, you traitor. Where are you going now? I got people to stitch with and finish with. Are you kidding? It's just used to me working at home on weekend nights. Okay. Let's finger press it all down, making sure to really roll that edge under. And if anything happens to my camera or I get out of frame, give me a shout out, please. All right, I'm trying to do this and it doesn't want to fold there, so I need to give a tick right there. Because we are going to press that as well, especially that. We want to make sure that it's really willing to roll. This is beautifully basket weaved. So it's thicker and it's not going to afford us a lot of give for this puff. So I won't be using the full like 1-inch puff on it. And I got to do this side. Right. And now some people would pull that off. I just think it's easier to be able to roll. And a little extra something to kind of hold on to when you're doing that curve. We're going to bend these little points down as we go. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and turn our steam on. Well, these are hot, definitely, and steamed. Get these rolled right. Nope. So that they're right up. I don't know if I'm brave enough to do this on foam core. Okay. Yes, yes. Not sure why that end doesn't want to stay. Problem child. Okay. Anytime we have a shape, one thing I am going to look at, make sure that we haven't gone askew too much with all the steaming, but it was pretty straight originally. Always face down when you're making the piece that goes on the inside. Mechanical pencil. Okay. My iron is giving little power surges that I don't want. Angling that pencil in so that it isn't too big, catching the casing for the lead, because it will bring it out a little further. Okay. All right. So with the puff and with the, if you don't use the fluff, you're going to do the 1/8 inch all the way around, because that'll allow for the foam core. If you're doing mat board, you're just bringing it, be like what, 16th? Not even 32nd. So with the fluff though, you end up coming way in. We'll have to see if I'm too far. Shouldn't be. If you would like to ensure that it is the same all the way around, you can make a mark how wide you want it to be, like this, and just move it all the way along your edge so that you have the right dimension, all right width all the way around. Because I definitely don't always do that perfectly, but my art teacher would yell at me, "What's with the hairy lines?" Okay. And we cut. Don't try to do this curve in there by just going in and doing it in one fell swoop. Chop off bigger areas. start this. Hey, funny how much smaller it looks as you need to have more area for the loft of your fluffiness.
I don't even know what the hell she's talking about.
You have your microphone on. So what I'm talking about is
So
you're fine.
I'm really a beginner, so some of this stuff I'm like, "Oh my god, what is she talking?" But I will
So you
teach.
have to allow room for the fluff to be able to expand on the inside. And when you look at this flat compared to now, it'll look so much skinnier once you make the finished ornament, because you look at this and you think, wow, that's really wide, and that's, or it has something to it, but in the end it's going to be that thin. So that's what I'm saying is that when you
Oh,
start looking at your interior piece, you start realizing. So we're beveling this in so that we have very thin edges at the back. So when the front and the back come together, they will have a nice fine edge that we don't have to try to cover with a lot of fabric or a lot of cording. We want it to come together nice and thin as possible because we have to hide all of that. So now we take our tool, the back end, and we're just going to burnish that down a little bit, push it down so there's no sharp edge. Okay. Take that down. And I have to remember, I have taught 2 other classes today, and I've repeated myself so many times. And just because I was in those classes doesn't mean you guys were in those classes. And I need to stay on top of the everything for that I do normally, even though I feel like I'm becoming redundant. You might not have heard it. So, all right, so we have the piece that's going to go in here, and I want to look at it and see if I've gotten it in enough. And I don't think I have. Not to be able to get much loft. I just don't. Just gonna shock you and take it down even more. At least in another 8. And that's all to accommodate for the fluff that's going inside. My hand doesn't want to slide across that mat. This camera's right in front of my face. I'm sorry. Trying to get shapes for any of these ornaments is it's time consuming because there is no true formula because everybody's stitching is different. Sometimes it's thicker. The basket weave has always got a thicker mass to it. And so if somebody has something that doesn't have much there, you definitely aren't going to do this, take this much off for a cookie style. So I don't want you worrying about that. See if that helps a little bit of overkill. Okay. And this right here is why I'm doing foam core instead of the mat board because mat board is so difficult to cut. Um, that if I can avoid using that, I'd rather have some of the challenges of the foam core than trying to deal with the mat board. If you love it, awesome. I just find it. I just did it again. Same thing I did last night. Please don't bleed. 'Cause I don't have a band-aid up here. I'm having a hard time catching the edge to bevel. There we go. All right. Yeah, I knew it. It's like almost in the exact same spot too as last night. Hey, watch, I've done too much overkill. No, I think we're going to be good. So what we're going to do is this is the new foam fluff. It's the inch width. On the supply list, you'll see a package of it. Um, you can find it in smaller packages as well. In the store, they sell like a little 10 by 8 by 10 online at least. And I'm going to take off, I'm going to split it right down the middle. That's why I like this, because if I don't have a very thin piece of the felt that I use on the other ornaments, I can just peel a section off of this and use it in a round ornament for a cookie style. All right, so I'm going to take a little bit of the glue and I'm going to dab it on here so that when I go to cut the fluff, I don't have to hold on to it. Okay. So now from this side, we just start kind of hacking it off right along the line. Take some of that off so I can get up in there. All right. And I'm kind of compressing it with my fingers on the back side, motion it kind of down. Okay. Now I'm going to hold it like this. Gotta love sunset on the west end of the building. And all I'm doing is taking this edge off so it looks rounded. Okay. Because I don't want a big square edge compressed down. Again, it's that whole bevel thing. I want to keep the loft as much as possible. Now the backside is going to puff out a lot more because the material is different and needlepoint is very, this is thicker, it's more rigid, whereas that velveteen definitely has, is much more forgiving and is going to allow the fluff to come out and expand more. Needlepoint, not so much. I know you're thinking, are you sure? No, I'm not sure. That took it too big. No, I'm going to do it. I'm going for it. We're going to start in the center. Okay, I'm going to put this on. It'll look a little weird for a few minutes. You know, darned if you do, darned if you don't. You think it's going to go too small. Come on. That side on. Trying to get it to compress against this foam core. Okay. Yeah, that'll work. Then we're going to do this side. Can you hear me trying to talk myself into it? Yeah, yeah, it's gonna work. Yeah, sure, Kelly. She has to peel it off. Do not put your finger too far into this before it cools. You don't want to burn yourself. Trust me. Mm, come on. I know you're gonna go. I just got to get this other part on. Like right there. Mm, nope, no glue there. That was brilliant. I usually have a pen that I fit. There we go. Get there. I freely admit I'm pushing the gamut with how thin my piece is. This, I probably could have done about an eighth more. Come on, you. You are not doing what you're supposed to do there. But I also know this customer. She wants everything uber puff. And this isn't something that you can just put on a sewing machine and stuff it. So if you're doing the cookie style, you're going to do it just like we do the other, where you don't cut in to allow for fluff. And you're just going to put a nice little piece of the interfacing or the felt on the interior. Excuse me. And it's just going to slip right over very easily. I don't want to scare you just because I'm struggling with this a little. I don't want you to look at me and go, yeah, I'm not doing that. But what I am doing with this, I think you're going to like as we get around this edge. Okay, here we go. Nice long side. Okay. think this is actually even gonna be puffier than the one that I did for Diane, who is in the group right now, that the video was done of. Yeah, look at the curve on that. Can you see how puffy that is? It's pretty serious.
Hey Kelly,
Yeah,
how do you keep the foam board from bending when you're putting the pressure of pulling the canvas around?
I am working really hard to not do that, but I do have a little bend right here, but it's not really like a big, like crease. The
Mhm.
one thing that you have, even if you have a bend in it, because of your backing piece that you're going to put it onto, it's not going to make a difference.
Oh, good.
Okay, so I understand, but I want you to think about this too, though. While you're working with it, you can, where's my little tool? Take, okay, this has some sticky, it's glue. Just if you're afraid of bending an area, put something flat where you're working so that as you're pulling on it, it has a brace or a structure there so that you don't accidentally really bend it.
That's a
Okay.
great idea. Thank you.
If you're that, because I have that, and I actually talked about that in the other video because I was so worried about doing that to Diane's as I was putting on the cording. I was really concerned about that as I'm, trying to get it to go around, that I'm going to muck it up by doing that exact thing. But that's when I thought of doing that particular way. I have to say, you hear me all the time that I sew the cording on. With some of those that were just two, I have had, and I don't know who designed them or if they corrected it because they got complaints about it. But there were some that were just 2 and 3. They were too wide hole. And it was so tight in here that you literally couldn't put the cording in and come back up the other side. You had to bend it and just cram it in there. And there's no way you could get your needle in there to sew it. And that was one of the times when it was so tight in there where I literally put some glue up in there and just put that in and sewed the rest of it on because there was no way it was coming out and there was no way to secure it in. And I didn't want to leave it with absolutely nothing so that if somebody put a little too much pressure on it, it would screw it up. All right, I need to look at the shape at the bottom of this. I need to redo this side so it's a little more curvy. I'm just reheating the glue that's underneath it by sitting my hot glue gun on the end. I'm not really compressing to make more glue come out. Yeah, I didn't want you to think this was like food all over my knife. I was taking something apart and it had that all over it. Trying to remember now what that was. Okay. And even though these are straight areas, I have to dart them because of the size of this foam core. I don't want to have any weird buckles in it. And I'm actually going to remove some of this extra because I don't want the extra bulk of the waste canvas here. Okay. See what it looks like here. It is a pretty squared off candy cane, isn't it? There's somebody not trying to. Oh, I have to take these a little bit at a time because it is a little short at the top. Oh, you didn't catch any glue. Okay. Mm, mm. Got a little odd end here. This little fat end. Okay. Now I have, all right. Before we start to put the cording on, we need to do the tracing for the back, and even can put the back together. Put the fabric on. I always love it when somebody decides they want a monogram on the back of a vertical piece like this. And they say, and I want it down the side. Oh, wonderful. I love a challenge. You can see why people are afraid of these to finish them themselves, you know. I mean, you can see it. Why they would be.
So, Kelly, how do you price a finish like this?
Want to take a wild guess? It's the same as every other standard ornament.
Uh-uh.
Uh-huh. Yes, ma'am. It is. That's why when I talk about it when I was talking about it with the rounds or with, there are pieces that are gravy pieces and there are pieces that take you longer, and yeah, it's considered a standard ornament. Now you can feel free to to price yours accordingly, but uh typically when I do this, it just gets any of the shaped ornaments. Doesn't matter if that gingerbread cookie that I did earlier that's difficult with the darts that go in, does not matter. It's still considered a standard ornament. So it gets the same price. I don't know, the big finishing companies have more for shapes versus rounds, but any place I've ever worked for, all the standards. At least what they pay me. Now they might have you pay more, but wouldn't seem right to me. But
Do you take direct finishing or just through
just through a store.
okay.
I don't want to. I debated about doing classes just for the bookkeeping and the emailing and the all of that aspect of it, because I don't want to have the extra paperwork and everything. And I mean, eventually I'll get a little system down, but that's why I have someone who distributes my canvases, because I don't want to have to field, you know, 20 calls a day that are saying, hey, when's this coming in? When's this coming in? When's this, I didn't get this. And so, yeah, I'm all set with not having to deal with direct. And, the stores are a great buffer. I'm not saying they don't. Oh, hold on. Oh, look at that. How wonderful. Just a minute. Hello. This is why Chris has to do the recording, because all of a sudden my camera decided not to work and I had to take the one from the recorder unit. Thank you, Chris. So yeah, it's personally, just because I personally do not want to have the extra daily um fielding phone calls and having people calling to have more things in. And so yeah, it's really just because I don't want that kind of a business. Then I have to deal with the state tax and all that good stuff. So all right, let's go ahead. I think I need to peel off, let's peel off about 3/4. I'm just pull it back towards me a little bit. And I must say, last year sometime, might have been the year before, somebody asked me if I wanted to be a manager of a finishing business. And I was like, oh, heavens, no. It was like right in the middle of COVID craziness with, it's like, this is my contribution. I'll train new finishers. I'm not gonna take over, and I'm not the manager type. I'm all set. So now, as I'm shaping this again, for whatever reason, if you feel like you have more control this way, but I think it's the angle that I can hold the scissors at that I'm trimming this off to just get that little top edge off. Not that it has to be perfect. I don't want that big square edge on it. All right. So that's ready, set, go for there. Now I need my thimbles, leather pad in the gripper to push my curved needle through, and thumb gripper, my 2-inch round needle. All right. First thing I do want to do before I get over involved in this, turn this down. I'm going to make my hanger for this end, for the top. 1, 2, 3 inches is what they ask for.
Kelly,
Yes, ma'am.
how many inches of cording did you make?
So this is 30. It was unspooled because one of them's Krynic and
Okay.
one of them is pearl cotton. So I just cut the pearl cotton how I always do, which is 3 feet long. And
Okay.
then once it's twisted, it ends up being 24. Let me see. 24. Here we go. And that's 29. So when you twist down the 36, you get 29 inches of cording,
Okay,
and it'll go around.
okay,
Yep.
thank you.
It's funny. You start, that's why I just always do this, even if it's kind of a small ornament. And I used to save all of the extra bits thinking, oh, I can get another ornament out of that. The likelihood that I actually end up using that same color combination is usually pretty slim unless it's gold or red and gold. Once in a while I might get lucky, but for the most part. So we're going to slide that down. One, two, three. Up there. Yep, there we go. Tighten that down. So this person used to like a 4-inch drop, and then it changed to, oh, people don't like it that long. 3-inch. Okay. I go about 2.5 to 2 on the little bulb ornaments because it just looks way too big on the smaller ornaments. And I'm going to come in and tie off the main piece of cording because we don't want it to unfurl. Right? And we're going to cut it there. We're going to mash it out. Take off my thumb guard. We fill this up with glue so that when we put it in and need to manhandle it with the dowel needle potentially. It doesn't break the, I'm putting spit on my fingers to not get stuck glue on and not burn my fingers off. Surprised I still have fingerprints.
Kelly, if you were to put beads on that cording, would you do it before or after?
um, I wouldn't. I've never been. I tried it a couple of times, and if I was going to do it, I would do it as a stringer before, so that when you make the cording, as it's there, you can kind of twist and sew and but see then therein lies the issue. As you're trying to get it to spiral with it, if you want to put your needle through or just to, you're going to have to come back and tie bits to keep it together. I've just never sat down for a day to try to really figure it out. 90% of what I do, they don't want the extra embellishments. So I don't even get the opportunity to attempt to do the next level when I'm working for a shop. So that is something that I would have to personally play around with to advise you correctly that, oh, this is what you do and this is how you do it, because I've never done it and been able to figure out a simple enough way to make it cost effective, because when you're working by the piece, you have something like that and takes you a day to
I
do
would
the
charge it.
exactly it. But even then, that is one of those, sometimes you can't charge enough for how long it takes. You have to find an easy way to be able to make cording like that, to have it be something that isn't, I don't want to say a waste, but it is not cost effective when you're trying to do XYZ. You see what I'm saying? Am I explaining it
Yes, thank
well?
you.
Okay. It's kind of like, the gravy piece versus the other. You definitely have to make sure that you formulate a way to charge for that you are getting paid for that time. And that's where, if you're going to be a specialty, oh, who's the one that does the pillows that you kind of almost don't have a say in what she does? She has like creative license. It's a big company too. She's really expensive, but she does phenomenal pillows. I forget her name. It's not Maureen. But I mean, she does some just gorgeous, gorgeous pillows with the knots on the corners and and the crazy fabric that around the insets. And because I'm not that kind of sewer, I marvel at them for what they are, but I do know she doesn't usually, it's you send it and she makes it into the complementary fabric and theme. And if you're going to be that kind of a finisher, then you can do pieces like that, because then you charge accordingly and your time is covered. If you're a basic finisher that's putting out, I guess that's kind of why I liked doing the lobster trap, because it was all the bells and whistles. And so because I had nothing better to do, COVID had just come on, and I had to think of a way, and nothing on Amazon. So then I'm making all of this stuff myself, and I'm like, I really like this because I can kind of just go for it. But a lot of times the people that are coming through the stores, the unknown they just, the the extent of their creativeness for it is, unless they have seen a picture of it already someplace else, it's, tricolored cording is as crazy as they want to get. But it's just because they can't imagine it, and they don't necessarily know that that's even, a thing, I guess. And it also depends on the shop a lot, on what they are going to put out there. And they also know their customer base. There are some places where certain things just, no, we're too conservative of stitchers. But I think that's a very interesting thing that's happened with the internet, is that now designers can put out different designs directly to the public, that if the shop owners previously thought, oh heck, that's not going to sell at my store, and so they wouldn't purchase your designs because maybe it's a style they thought wouldn't go and they didn't want to have it sit in their store, then there's a customer lost. But now, because we can reach out to the public more. Okay, so sorry, I'm sitting here talking and I'm not telling you what I'm doing. So I anchored the end of this. I measured where I believe the center is going to hang. Okay. I anchored it with a little piece of glue so that I don't have to struggle to hold it there. Eventually, I'll probably pop that up so that I can bring it to the top and meet with the hanger. And now I'm just sewing it to the edge. And I'm trying not to pull super tight and roll it way back in here. I don't want to do that. And it will do that. I want to try to keep it up right on the top edge as I'm sewing around. And this is solely so that when we do this interior line, if you had the back piece on there, it's hard to get the angle of the needle, whether it's nigh on impossible with a straight needle to get into some place like that. It's hard enough with a curve. So I am just looking at where my thread is. And I don't know if you can, let me see. You can see it comes back across that. We're going to hook round the yellow. Come on. Of course, now I've got a dark spot so I can't see. Might have to turn on another overhead. There we go. I'm coming up on the edge. And we're not over pulling, and we're keeping it up. Okay, we got to spin the cording, keeping it tight, because we can unfurl it if we don't keep rotating it. I think I struggled with the last one a lot more than I am with this one. Trying to, not bend it and everything. That one was mat board. Maybe it's because this one's a little thicker and a little easier to hang on to. I don't know. So I came up with this idea. I did it the other way for years, where I actually just put the back on and then just sewed the cording around and cursed the whole time I was trying to put it down that center alley of the candy cane. And then when Diane asked me to, or asked me how do I finish these, and I said, well, send it to me and I'll finish it and I'll make it into a video. And I said, how do you want to do it? Do you want to glue for the center, or because I didn't know how many stitches wide she had. And she said, no, I want to sew all of it. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, oh, I could do this like I had to do my coasters. Okay. I have to make sure I keep it just loose enough so that when I put that back on, it stays up. That's the challenge. Not having it curl back in too far. Because when I do the coasters that have vinyl on the back, you'll pull right through the vinyl. It doesn't like to be sewn like this at all. So when you're trying to put it on, you basically have to use the good glue that's gonna like stick forever on the back side, because you try to pull this fishing line through it and it just tears a nice big old hole. Okay, up here. So it was like this epiphany moment. Wish I had a little, oh, I do, actually. Hold tight. I'm just going to take a piece of mat board and put it back here to hold. Because I feel like it's bending a little. So instead of that knife, we're just going to use a little mat board there. Or try it that way, see if that helps. Might be too much to juggle all of it. Yeah. Okay. Just keep plugging away. I think I'm going here. If you feel that you just really can't do it like this and you put the back on and go around it, just do the best you can. Get your angles in there. It's still a tough curve.
Do people sometimes glue the cording on, or is it best to always sew it?
So there are people that don't actually have the ability to do the sewing. I know there have been a few people who've contacted me and they're like, I have arthritis. I can't do the needle. I still want to do things for my family, but, budget doesn't, it dictates And you can do it just, and I'll show you the glue in a minute that you use, but it's a very, you have to be very careful because what happens is you don't want to take the chance of it getting onto the stitching or somewhere on the fabric that's on the back. It can be a calculated risk. There are a lot of people that would, be gasping that you asked, because there are a lot of people that are extremely judgmental about the glue. I am not, because my new line, it's the only way it'll stay on the balls. So, it is what it is. All right, so for this part, because I'm going up in to this curve, I'm literally taking it up into the foam core to put this cording on. As you can see, my little bits from me manhandling it are already pulling back. I'm going to have to see, I just pulled that out. So basically, I'm trying to show everyone the example of doing it sewn, but for as much glue as I'm using everywhere else, they'd probably say, well, you might as well just glue it on. But, all right. Almost around. Almost. I'm going to come up into this foam core more. A lot more. And I'm going to reach down and just kind of grab it and come back through the front side to tack it in. I'm sorry, I'm trying to give you the best view, but at the same time, now you can see I kind of creased there. It's not going to make a difference. It'll still be hidden because the back piece will keep it straight. Coming up through this white. Like this. This is the, obviously the fussiest area you're going to get. And we can see by putting it down, we're still okay. We're still going to have our loft, and it's going to press down. Can't see. Come through there. I'm going to cinch it there. I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to go through the back of the foam core again. You could not do this if you were doing mat board. It would be too difficult. Just going to keep it tight.
So Kelly, do you only go through the foam core on the crook of the candy cane?
Yes. Yes. The rest of it, you're just
Through
catching
the fabric.
Yeah, through the needle point. Yes. I'm only doing it there because I don't want to destroy that edge any further. I want to cover up all of the little waste canvas bits and not have anything show. and we'll see how it looks once it's together. Let's see, where's my, because once we get past that point, we have to come way back here. Yep. See where my, oh, come on. I feel like the reason that this is worth doing like this, aside from the fact that it's sewn, is you're going to have a little more longevity with it, in my opinion. It's glue works, it does. And I haven't had an issue with the holding, but for people that really just aren't, it takes practice, and it can be just as scary to glue as it is to do what I'm doing, thinking, oh, this is complicated. But, you know, drips happen. Unfortunate moments in that respect. I know someone who wasn't even using it on that project, and she turned it over and there was like a piece of sorry if you couldn't see that. She pressed a piece of fabric and there was a little bit of hot glue, like I sweep away from here, and she didn't notice it, and she got it all done, the piece all done, and then she flipped it over and finally noticed that there was hot glue that had embedded on the back side of a stand up. And she's like, how am I supposed to get this apart? Because the piece, yeah, that was good, Kelly. The piece was completed. So now she's trying to figure out how to disassemble everything. And she doesn't really know when she got it on it, actually. Oh, always, 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 especially when you have silk fabrics, things like that. Wash your hands to make sure you do not have any kind of uh, inadvertent grease that you don't know about. I'm not saying that you don't wash your hands. It's just sometimes you get things from the weirdest places, and silks love to have that potato chip stain look on them very easily. And I mean, I'm wary of it when I try to put some lotion on before this morning, and it's the best lotion for that, but I still don't want to take a chance for my, for your rough, dry hands, because it doesn't have any smell to it that'll transfer onto the needle point. That's something else you want to think about. If you like to have scented lotion and you are going to be a professional finisher, stop using it, because it'll come off and it'll make the needle point smell, and some people will get really upset because now it comes back and it has a slight fragrance to it. So be careful. If it's your own stuff, well, you don't care then. It's really funny. I love when sometimes when I'm blocking, you can tell when ladies heavy scented hand creams because you'll go and steam it and all of a sudden you get this floral smell or basement smell. I've had that one too. Okay, at this point, I'm stopping on the cording because I want to put the backing on so that as I come around the rest, and once I do the top and put the hanger on, I am going to go past and do a little stitching in here to make sure that the back piece is sewn to this tip. Okay. So let's do our fabric next. How are we doing? Sure. Yes. I would think it would be because it's supposed to be. Okay, well, here's the thing that I don't kind of understand about these types of things. They're supposed to be judged on just the stitching alone or the stitching and the finishing. Because if it's both, then I would think that they would get in trouble for the glue because it's supposed to be a sewn piece. It depends on how much they take them apart, I would think. You know, how far do they inspect them, or are they just judging them on the actual stitched piece? I don't know, I guess is what I'm saying. I would think that it would be a detriment. Right? Thanks. Yeah, right. So we're going to take our fabric and make sure it's a directional fabric. The velveteen has an up and a down, so we're going to make sure that it's a pet peeve of mine because I hate grabbing hold of something and you can just tell, you can just feel it that it's not, the fabric isn't going down. We had a monogrammer that was terrible about it. She didn't really understand that you can't just put it any which way. All right, so we're going to do the center first because we really want to be able to push this up in. This is almost as not fun as doing the other one. I'm going to do 1, 2, up a little higher there. Now, because this is a little wider hole, I think it's funny. I used to be able to use a ballpoint pen to just push up in there, and it was like the perfect size. But this is a little bigger, so I can't use that. It's going to look a little awkward, but you're just going to push your finger right up in there and pull that fabric around. Don't worry about the old tail here. We're just doing the curve, the inner curve. I'm putting that right to that edge. Push our finger up and in. Okay. This edge lined up. It's not going to have a large overhang. But since it kind of moved around as I was mashing it up in there, I'm going to give it a dart nick there. Okay. Now you're looking at this lovely dent there. It's okay. It'll all get pulled out as we bring it around. Okay. Again, beauty of velveteen cotton. This is some of that nice cotton. You can use the upholstery velveteen, just know you're going to have some really thick seams. The store up in Natick had an entire area of upholstery weight, and it's like, oh, look at this color, look at this color. And then you go over and you feel it and you go, yeah, no, that is so thick, it is going to look terrible. All right. Let me see. I have to work this bit back around. Let's cut that big old dog ear off. Geez. Bring that up. We're going to try to do, 1/2 inch around. You have to be careful when you have the fluff because it looks like it's enough, and then all of a sudden you realize I'm short. This next Saturday is a class where I will be taking apart a long rectangular ornament that was done by someone during COVID. They sent it to a finisher that was on Instagram or one of the social media places. And when she got it back, she was in a real state because you can tell they used poster board and some not great gluing when they couldn't get the cording to stick down. But we're going to take that apart and redo it and show you that it's okay. We are it's not, all is not lost. And I guess my point with that was that if you do something and you just don't really care for how it turned out, it's okay. You can go back at it, reapproach, take a little steam and reignite your hot glue that's under your fabric and just redo it. Not that you want to, but most of the time when you've spent that much time and money on a canvas, you don't want to just not do anything with it. I'm going to chop a lot of this back because otherwise it's going to get too thick on this end, which is always a problem when choosing fabric. How thick's it going to get, even if you dart it? It's all parts of the decisions of, okay, that's going to pull up. All right. Of what fabric you use. There we go. I'm going to cut this a little shorter for the same reason. But it has the darts, so we're okay. Just gonna start dart, hack in. One of the things you have to watch for is when you have deep dart areas is, you've heard me talk about, oh, how is this puckering? Is this, you're gonna get little folds on the back, but you don't want deep creases. And you get them on the flats, the cookie style, just as much as you get them on here. So you just got to be careful how you're wrapping things around when you're doing it. All right, we're gonna push, kind of compress that just a little bit, make sure our fabric is still looking straight on the back. Okay. And my Interfacing has decided to let go. Thank you very much, interfacing. It's okay, because the heat will reset it. Just wrap it around. At least I hope it will. Yep. Or the glue comes up through it, however you want to look at it. I can see that these pieces up here need to be fixed a little. And by fixed, I mean more darts. It's looking kind of chunky. That's okay. Yeah. That's still really thick. Hey, yeah. Behave yourself. Okay. Let's tip it. I think it's so interesting that it did that. That the interfacing came apart, separated from the material. It doesn't do that very often. Start with the end. There. Am I okay? Woo! It's coming together. There's a little fold kind of there, but it's not bad. Okay. Now, now we get to see how many voids we have when we put it together, how far apart, if our cording is going to be close enough in. Oh, looks like it's going to meet. Meet. Awesome. Excellent. Like I said, we still need to come down and around. We're going to take this, we're going to kind of very carefully because again, we're working with velveteen, and when you press on it like this, you can damage the fabric. We're going to pull this in to try to go with the grain of the fabric to eliminate any gutters, or as much as we can. This side actually has a lot of fluff kind of hanging over, I think. Okay, so I think how we're going to do this is I'm just going to put right down the center because I don't get glue too close in here or too close in the arch here, because what will happen is it will reheat the glue and the fabric will let go, and you'll be trying to push the fabric or the needle point back up in. So we're just going to put a nice dollop. And remember, we got to put a piece down in there, so not too heavy there either. I know I got all these rules all of a sudden. No, don't do that, and don't do that. And we're putting this on. Make sure that it's centered. And this time we're going to do it this side up, I think. I want to push. I'm going to push this down so that the glue in the center area without putting finger dents in the material. Because this is the time when with the needle point side down, it'll keep the face of it flat. We talked about how while you're gluing it, if you just hold it in your hands and pinch it, it could make a concave side and have a bow in it. So if you flatten it down onto your work surface, then you're less likely to have an ornament that bows. In. So I am rolling this in. That's a little further in than I wanted though. Where's my dowel needle? I'm gonna pull this up and out a little bit. So when I come back around and put the security stitch, it's gonna have this up higher, and we're gonna pull that back behind. Okay, all right, let's get stitching this cording on. I have a feeling we're going to go to 8:30. If you can't stay, I totally understand. But who knows? Maybe only 8:15. Okay. So immediately, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, because it's on the needle point side, and I'm going to grab some of the green and back pedal a stitch. And, this is a nice long, straight area. I'm going to employ my big needle and put this on with some bigger bites. If I can actually grab the end of it, it would help. Okay. Oh my gosh, I am so tangled. There we go. Oh, can you see? Sort of. We're turning as we go. This is one big fat candy cane. Pulling against my thread. Okay. I have another one to do for the same person. So this is not the end of it for me. Make sure to grab some fabric. Grab some fabric. Come up and grab a little more fabric. 'Cause I didn't come up into it the last time. It's my thumb. It doesn't like the curved needle. And because I'm taking such big chunks, big bites out of this straightaway, it's just harder to pull it through. Where is it coming up? Oop. Come on. Well, I thought that went in too easily. Hitting air. Okay. The little trick that I did where I come up through the foam core, that is something that I do on picture frames as well to do the corners, to try to pull the cording down in at the corner because there's just no stitching there. All right, I'm going to take and switch to my finer 2-inch. End it right behind where I believe the centerpiece will go, hanger will go. Come on. Now, what I can feel is that that glue that I put in is pretty close to that edge, top edge. And I need to pull this up just like I thought I would to meet. Luckily, we do have a ribbon on this, so if we have a little have it close to the edge, it's okay. Any shine from the fishing line will take care of that. Be covered by a bow. We want to come up a little bit more. But actually I can't see anything there and I'm going to be sewing it in anyway. So it's not a problem. Now I want to look and see. I want my just, to have all of these be the same length. I don't want to untwist it like this and put it in and have a long piece there. So I'm going to glue it and it's going to have a direction this way. If for some reason you have a piece of hot glue that gets onto anything, don't mash it in. Let it sit on the surface. And once it's dried, then you come back in with a pin and see if you can pull it up. If it's stuck to fibers, take your X-Acto blade and run it parallel to your fabric and almost shave it off. Try not to go into the nap or else you'll see the little shaved spot on the back of your piece. That's where it's sometimes nice to have velveteen as a forgiving piece of fabric because it has a little extra nap on it. Okay. Well, it's puffy. I'm gonna come straight through, grab onto that hanger. I can feel I'm too far forward in that needle point. There. I'm going to grab under this white to pull it up. I'm going to come in behind again into the green fabric. I'm angling it just a little too much, so it's going up into the cording already, the hanger, and I don't want it to do that. I'm going to come back up through the meat of the hanger. Feel like I'm separating the cording, and I don't want to do that. Okay. Tight. I'm gonna pull that white one forward a little bit. I'm gonna skim right in there. Come behind, and then I'm gonna do a knot that goes right into the back side of the hanger. It's in the fabric side, but now it's running in between. We're going to do 1, 2 spins around the needle. Pull it tight. Ta-da. All right, I'm going to leave our tail on. I will be coming back down and sewing this after to solidify that, but I'm not gonna, I want to get this bow done so you can see it on. And this person likes the three loops with a puffy center. So we're going to kind of come back a little bit. Okay. So this doesn't have a side, although it feels rougher on this side. So I'm guessing this is the back. Yeah. I'm going to say it's the back. So just like that. Okay. I don't want to make it huge though. Okay. I don't want to overpower it. I don't care for this ribbon because there's no wire in it. And it's going to look a little softer and mushier probably. How's that? Okay, so you pinch it together and I pull the tail over out of the way. Now I'm going to cut these tails right off because she doesn't want tails. But we do it just so we have something to hold on to. So we try to see if those are even loops. They look relatively even. You can't tell kind of until you get your center fishing line in. Pull this down. Pull this down now so it kind of shifts it in your thumb. Now you make this one just a tiniest bit longer. Okay. There's a couple ways that you can tie it off. Okay, now you see how this is. I'm going to pull it to kind of straighten it. I'm going to kind of yank it up under my thumb. Wrap it around my thumb. Unfortunately, I kind of have a big thumb, so I can't do teeny tiny centers. And I'm pulling this up into my fingers more, straightening it out. Push it in, hold it kind of tight and firm, and just push it in and pinch. This will make your hand cramp. That's why it's easier to kind of do it in a mindless manner so that you just kind of crank them out. This is 30 years of prom corsages and mother of the bride and all the corsages that go with weddings, or used to, because they've kind of fallen out of fashion. I'm trying to find the center. So you kind of pull your thumb away and look. The reason I don't like wired like this is when I tie this off, it's so soft. It's going to pinch the ribbon together, the fabric part of it even more. Hold on. Putting this in my teeth. And of course it broke. Pinch down with your finger to hold your knot tight. We're going to do it again. Okay. Now you can manipulate these once you've, see what I mean? How it kind of goes, whoa, and it gets all crazy looking. With wire, you can manipulate. So we're pinching your center so that you don't pull the fishing line and expand it. So you're gonna just keep pinching on that. You don't want to loosen your fishing line on it. I'm trying to grab the fishing line so I can keep it where I want it. And I think, this is probably as good as it's gonna get. Since this one looks a little longish to me, maybe if I pull this one out, it'll, oop, 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 oop. Okay, stop messing with it, Kelly. We're just going to take this, get a little drop to come out so it'll kind of cool. And drop it on the knot. This white on white is doing nothing for details for you guys, is it? Okay. Cut that off. And center is making me nuts. Then we take this and we cut that way off. So you don't want to do these parts when you're still yanking on it and trying to get it manipulated, because you'll pull that little nip right out and you got to redo your bow. And if you've only been given a certain length, then you're kind of out of luck. Okay, so now quickly put these back on. Thumb, thumb, thumb. I go through it two ways. Where am I at? Okay, I'm directly behind. So I will do the through the loop. Feed it through the loop. And I like to try to sit it up on top the best that I can. And I'm going to crank it over to the side, because then we're going to go side to side. Okay. So we get it and we let it push it back towards the loop, because the loop we can always pull. And then stick your finger through the loop, the center loop, and then slide this through your bow from side to side. See where I came out on the other side. Oh, that's perfect. Lucky shot. Stop that. Okay. Now, again, put it back where you want it so it doesn't just randomly. There we go. Okay. Like so. I don't know. Can you even see? I got the camera so close. I feel like I keep going out of shot. I apologize. And I'm going to, I think, put it in side of this cord, run it through to where we put the back knot, and knot it on. Okay. And there we are. Done. I'm leaving the tail on because I'm going to go on around. All right, I don't like this little guy here, so all I'm going to do is pull it in. And it's staying. And not in love with you. So let's do the same. Little doll needle. Yep. Just pulled on the fabric. Pull that back. Our curve looks good. All of our goodies are covered in the center arch. Yay. Okay, guys. Only 15 minutes over. I hope that this was helpful to you guys. And you, I'm going to put myself in the picture again. So what do you guys think? You going to tackle it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Kelly, can I ask a question?
please.
Thank you. So this is regarding twist.
Yep.
So I find that when I'm using pearl with pearl, it twists beautifully. Pearl with Krynic or another metallic, sometimes it's not that they twist differently, but they don't want to stay twisted in an equal way. Am I the only one who's having a problem with that?
Okay, so this is Krynic and Pearl. Okay. I
Yes.
think what you might be feeling is that maybe your pearl is thicker than your Krynic, and maybe you need to add a few more strands.
Strands of what? Pearl or Krynic?
Krynic, because
Krynic.
Krynic is always a little bit, unless you're using a larger gauge of
Mhm.
Krynic. So when I pulled this, when I pulled this Krynic out, I went, oh, this is a really fine gauge. And this is not going, so I was going to have 12 pearl. And I know that doing 3 feet winding it 3 feet with the Krynic will get me 10 strands. But this was so fine that those 10 strands were not equivalent to the 12 pearl. So I took 2 strands out, and it's relatively even as far as the thickness of both colors. I just feel like the compression rate for Krynic is so much more. It just twists so much tighter than
So
the cotton.
I mean, I have the same problem with Entice, not the same problem, a different problem, but it's also a twist problem. So that if I use the Entice, it's almost like when I'm finished twisting and I'm getting ready to use it, that like the tension of the twist changes.
Okay, are you, do you glue the ends to make sure nothing shifts after?
No, I tie a knot.
Okay.
It's a tough one. It's like Entice almost wants to unravel, but it does that when you're stitching with it too.
Do you twist clockwise to the right?
So I twist clockwise to the right, and then I twist it to the left.
Okay. I bet that the Entice, you have to twist to the left, counterclockwise for the initial twist.
Really?
Well, if it's fighting it, I have found that with certain yarns that I've had to use for pillows, for long things, and I couldn't find the colors. There are certain yarns that I will use, like wool. And there was a specialty one that I was trying to do, and I was like, why is this untwisting? And so I twisted it the opposite way, doing it clockwise, or counterclockwise, then I rolled it back clockwise,
Oh,
and it stayed.
I'll try that.
So give it a shot. It just may be because it can't compress that way. Apparently, let's see. So Krynic will let you do it. But I think so Cheryl from Cheryl's Finishing was talking to me about this, and she said, you know, there are certain things that you can do the counterclockwise and certain things you can't. And I think you might have to do the same. I don't know that you can do Pearl because I think Pearl is the one that you have to turn clockwise or else
Yeah.
you're fighting it in the same way.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering when you were describing it.
So if what'd you say it was? Inclusion?
Entice.
Entice. So if you're doing entice, you might have to do two forms of entice together because the Pearl isn't going to let you twist it the other way. Now, Krynic will let you twist it either way.
Right.
But not Pearl. So I knew I'd done it on a certain fiber because it was not twisting right. And I said, I am never using this again. And thank you, Susan. But it just is really testing these out. You definitely can't if it's fighting you that much, it's got to be that how they produce it is fighting the way that you're twisting it. So you just got to test it out with other things to see what solid color type of fiber you can use that will let you twist counter to be with the entice.
Okay. No,
That's
thank you. I hadn't even thought about that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing I can think of that would cause that. And I use so part of the lot that I got was like Overture, and it's all of those variegated, you know, really heavy strandables. And they're lovely, and I like using them in different cording, but you can it's so thick, the ones that I have, you can only use one. You can only use one piece of it, because otherwise if you put two together, it looks like a twisted cord with a twisted cord.
Yeah.
The way you twist it doesn't really compress down.
Mhm.
And sometimes I like running a thin piece of that through, or even the two in with a thick piece of cording just as a highlight, because the variegation gives it kind of a cool look to it. But again, you run the risk of, as you're twisting it, that that it's going to work against the rest of it. And then
Well,
you kind of got to.
the fibers are so different. The composition of them is so different.
Exactly. Just like, okay, this person loves to send me pillows that I use silken ivory for the cording. Ugh, I hate it because you have to make it so much longer, because the compression rate, you lose so much because you're twisting. And it's daunting how big you have to make, how long you have to make it. And I missed telling, yes, I will be sending you guys links to the video once I get it up, because Chris has to put it into Google Docs and send it to me. So it has to upload like twice. So, I like using different things. It gives it a different look. You can get fancy with it without being over the top for a customer that you don't necessarily know is going to let you do all the bells and whistles. But yeah, you'll just have to test that out and let us know.
Okay.
Let us know on the group.
Okay. I'll try. I mean, I need to try something. I'm making it work, but I don't like it.
Right.
I feel like I'm the only one who's really noticing it because I want it to be right. And
I see.
like I said, I notice it because it's difficult to work with, and I have to sometimes tighten the twist again just so that you can't see it separate. So I've gotten away with it. I just don't like doing that.
So what makes you use the entice versus something else in general?
What I'm asked to use
Oh, you're asked to use it. Oh,
because of matching colors, let's say.
got you. Got
So
you.
if they want to match something that's difficult to match, let's say with Pearl
Yeah.
5, because that's my choice. That's the easiest thing to work with.
Sure.
And they come with a lot of colors, but maybe the person has stitched with Entice and they want that color, then there's no choice.
Well, and I mean, just look at the aqua colors that you get in
Mhm.
Pearl.
Yeah.
They're like non-existent. There's like three, one that's bright, that's so intense that it doesn't look quite right.
Mhm.
And so you're trying to match it to other things and it just never
Exactly.
hits. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's the reason. But I'll try
Okay.
twisting it in the opposite direction. I mean, why not? I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah. And especially if it's something that you are doing a lot of, or you find it, obviously you've used it more than once if you found the problem with it.
Yeah.
Just because you have people there that are pulling things and they don't necessarily understand how it might interact as cording. And that's why I tend to like there are some sock yarns because they're
Mhm.
very dense that I'll use because they just twist right down and you can't even tell it's yarn. So sometimes I find a lot more colors, especially uh because we do have a Hobby Lobby here. They have their rows of rainbow, and I'll go through and I'll try to find one that is the right consistency that I want. There's a sparkle white one that I absolutely love that I love to put in cording on pillows, and they have a foofy one too that has some fuzz that's really nice.
Who manufactures that? Is that
It
it's not
does
a big
it does not tell you because it's all under the Hobby Lobby brand now.
Oh,
They don't even sell art pads that are Strathmore or any of that. It's all their
no
own brand.
way.
Yeah,
Wow.
they replaced all of it. I was really disappointed because I like to use a specific kind of vellum. And you can get it at like Staples. It's just
Mhm.
something that you can put through a printer
Mhm.
that's an 8.5 by 11 sheets. But they had some in there that was in a pad form. Gone,
Wow.
absolutely gone. And even, their mat cutting things, you still find a few things that are I forget the name of the mat cutters. Cole starts with a K, I think. They've just started taking over producing their own so that it's higher profit margin for them.
Exactly.
So I don't really care for, but sometimes I have to have a color and this is my only place to go where I can see it.
Yeah.
So
No.
I end up, going in someplace that I don't necessarily want to support just because I need
Mm.
to have what I need to have. And I'm
Does
not going to
Pepper
take the risk.
Yeah, no, I
Mhm.
understand.
does Pepper Pot make a pretty cording?
It's very much like um embroider floss in the feel of it. At least that's from what I've seen of Pepper Pot. I don't tend to use it at all. Um because most of the stuff gets sent to me. So if I don't get any of the extra fancy kind of stuff like that. Um it's always silk and ivory or pearl cotton or Krynic that I get in. When I'm trying to find something, it's going to compress and have a shininess to it as far as that little satin sheen, which is nice. But I don't find it a problem one at all. It just depends on the finish look that you want for it of, what it's next to. It's also the cost. You have, I mean, it's like 6 something a skein or for at least 5, depending on where you get it. And $5 for a skein, unless you really need to match a color and you really want it to match your piece, for someone like me that's doing production work and, trying to, it's not cost effective to use on everything. It's one thing if they choose it. That's why I tell the stores, if they want something special, have them pull what they want and they're gonna pay for it in the end. They can pay for the skein of it instead of me absorbing the cost for it because I have to go in and get that specific color. And they do. They don't mind. But for me to just use that as my primary, I don't go for, that's not something I go towards. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
You're welcome, Susan. So
Thank you, Kelly.
you're welcome, guys. I hope that, thank you so much, everybody. And I'm glad you guys were here. And I'm sure I'll see some of you guys tomorrow.
You will. I'll be there.
Okay, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
All right. Have a good night, guys. Take care.
You too. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
It is a Danji. It is a. 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 It is a.